Thank you, everyone, for coming. We are here very pleased today to welcome Professor Stella Yu of the University of Michigan. Professor Yu received her PhD from Carnegie Mellon University, where she studied robotics at the Robotics Institute and vision science at the Center for the Neural Basis of Cognition. Before she joined the University of Michigan in fall 2022, she was director of the vision group at the International Computer Science Institute, a senior fellow at the Berkeley Institute for Data Science, and a faculty member in computer science, vision science, and cognitive and brain sciences at UC Berkeley. She's been doing this stuff since before it was cool, and I'm really looking forward to having a chance to learn from her. So, Professor Yu, thank you very much, and take it away.
Thank you, Mark. I'm really glad to give this talk. For the last few years, I've been working on visual learning without text. So I call give my talk title Unscripted Grounded Visual Learning. When we think about visual learning, what happened? Why? Okay. When we think about visual learning, the task is we have snapshots of the world, and we want to recover what's out there in the 3D world. And usually people are interested in, say, recognition. And so given the image, you want to recognize the semantics of the image, or segmentation. You want to isolate objects of interest, or the 3D model of the scene. So the dominant way of looking at this problem of seeing is multifaceted inverse learning. We have partial observations in terms of 2D images. We want to recover things that exist in the 3D world external to our perception. To give some examples, CLIP is a foundation model for image-text association. It's learned from all these image and text pairs. And it's done by learning the right text encoder, learning the right image encoder, and for the right pair, the features matches as best as possible. At the test time, given an image, you have a vocabulary, and you figure out, according to the image feature, which text feature will give you the maximum response, and that will become your recognition. SAM is a foundation model for image segmentation, and this is done by, it's trained on 1 billion masks on 11 million images, high resolution images. The detailed architecture doesn't matter that much. But here you can see that for segmentation, it already acknowledges ambiguity. It requires outputs of 3 possible segmentation masks, each with a confidence score, because segmentation is fundamentally ambiguous. To give you a sense of how the kind of images that SAM is trained on, these are all painstakingly annotated segmentation by human annotators. Then you also have foundation models for object detection, such as grounding dino. Again, it can handle closed set object detection, open set object detection, and with that, it can support image editing. So it's trying to bridge the 2 extremes, object localization, text understanding, into one. Combining these foundation models, so-called, there's a grounded SAM. It's for object segmentation. With grounding dino, you can detect things of interest given the text prompts, whatever you're interested in. And then then you have boxes. And with the box prompts, you can call SAM, and it gives you detailed segmentation. Okay, so all of these developments, underlying all these developments is the supervised, undifferentiated multitask learning, exemplified in this work by my colleague at EPFL, called Omnidata Vision. If I have 3D model of the world, I know everything. I synthesize images, and I can have the suite of tasks of interest: image, curvature, key points, surface normal, depth, segmentation, all kinds. I have the input, I have the output. I can just use supervised learning to accomplish any task of interest. There's no differentiation. And I think this is one of the reasons that drives the 3D vision digital twin line of work. Now, to give an example of recognition, if you want to understand French cat on Lion's data set, you search with a French cat, and these are the examples that are returned. And this, to me, this is like when you train a model with all these examples, you are essentially, training a model with all these flashcards. Here's an example of French cat. There's another example of French cat. So the learning becomes a drilling. It's a drilling problem. In contrast, in human development, babies don't learn like this. There's no flashcards. The babies get to freely roam around with only finite objects in baby's contact within reach. The way it learns is to look at the objects from many different perspectives. The baby can move, it can get closer, it can look from a different perspective, and it's modeling the relationship between what I see at this moment, how is this related to next moment, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the perspective I'm taking. When people do, if I liken model to a baby, right? It's a clean slate. You don't know what's out there. You don't even know how your sensors are organized. And when people take the researcher's bias thing, what do I want out of system? It naturally gets into the mindset of drilling. Downstream applications, it will be useful to have recognition, detection, segmentation. These are the tasks that defined for the downstream use. It's what the researchers want. It's not what the models want in order to develop a fully intelligent agent. So this is drilling process from researchers' point of view. The baby's perspective is a modeling process. It takes all the multisensory information into account and try to make sense how when it moves around in the environment, what it captures in each one of these senses, how they are related to each other, and how these sensory information supports it to navigate safely in the environment and reliably interact with the object or environment. With this in mind, a lot of my research is asking the question, what can we learn from nothing but data? Right? It's a clean slate. It's not like you have human curated data, annotated data, none of the sort. What can you learn just by visual exposure to a lot of data in the world? So these are some unlabeled videos. And when we look at these, you think this is, after a few seconds, you get bored because you already grasp everything that's going on. Say a mother carrying a baby on a sandy beach. It's a sunny beach. But the thing is, you can summarize this because you have a lot of preconception. You know what beach is like. You know what, babies, humans are like. To a baby, if it doesn't have yet all these concepts, how can I learn something that's meaningful? So, okay, so the first work I want to talk about is unsupervised learning of generic objectness. Given unlabeled videos, I want to put a hotspot on every frame of the video, indicating potential object interest. I may not know what it is, but I know it is something that is recurring. It is a potential object interest. Okay, I don't have any labels. So this problem is routinely formulated in computer vision as video object segmentation problem. If I give you such a video, you say this is easy to segment because even just based on color cues, you can segment brown elephants from green grass. But this, you cannot segment based on appearance. If I freeze the frame, the object disappears, right? The camouflage objects. In reality, the videos are something in between, right? Even simple things like giraffes, the head, the body, the legs, they actually don't look the same. They don't even move at the same speed. Somehow we see them as one unity. And we see the group of giraffes moving at a certain speed, even though the 2D optical flow is actually very different. So usual object segmentation from unlabeled videos is formulated as segmenting each frame into objects, binary mask. What could be an object in each frame? When you have a video, people think about extracting optic flow information. Now it becomes a queue integration problem. You can segment based on appearance. You can segment based on optical flow, and two types of queue are present. How can you massage them together, give you better segmentation? We take the other approach. You ask me for one set of unknowns, which is segmentation mask in each frame. I'm going to volunteer another set of information, another set of unknown outputs, which is the flow of every segment. Okay. Um, so it turns out by solving two sets of unknown together, which are constrained, it actually makes the problem simpler, and we don't need supervision for that. So this is let me review the basic concept of optical flow. Optical flow is simply the 2D displacement across frames. Let's say this is the first frame, and the horse moved. Okay, compared to where the horse was, you can find a corresponding displacement at every pixel location. And if I consider this image I of x at the time frame t and the previous time t minus 1, I can establish the corresponding pixels. And in the classical optical flow calculation, you're minimizing this brightness differences. And this is done for specific image pair, and it's done independently between pixels. That's the textbook definition of optical flow. What we do, we are also optimizing this difference, but we are doing statistical learning over all training pairs. And we assume the flow is piecewise constant within a segment. The idea is simple, but the problem is the segmentation is unknown. We can assume the world is not random. The world is made of few pieces. Each piece moves at a constant speed. Okay, but the thing is, I don't know how to do segmentation yet. Segmentation is not given to me. That makes it challenging. But that's the criteria we are optimizing. So we want to concurrently learn segmentation flow estimation at the same time. Given an image, I'm going to have a model that spits out a segmentation, but I don't have supervision for that. But let's say I can do that. And then I take two frames. I'm going to have another model estimating flow, but I don't have flow, the ground truth flow for the output. But if I know the world is broken down into, say, 5 pieces, and I know that each piece is moving at a certain speed, then I can compose the next frame by just copy and paste. Each segment, if you move to the left, then I just move the segment to the left. Then I can predict what the next frame is like. But I do have the next frame. So this allows me to close the loop. Okay. To give you more concrete implementation, given input image, I have a pixel-wise softmax predicting the probability of each pixel belonging to one of the 5 segments. And I take 2 frames going through a CNN feature, and then I calculate the feature correlation volume. And with that, I look at each channel, segmentation channel. From that feature volume, I try to predict a 2D flow vector for each segment. It's a soft segment. So it's a feature volume to a 2D prediction problem. But I don't have ground truth for that. Neither do I have ground truth for segmentation. Now each segment gets a 2D vector. Now I can just copy and paste. I have a segmentation mask. I know how each segment moves. I just compose them together. There's no deep learning. There's no decoder. Okay, I predict the next frame, and then I'm going to compare with the actual next frame, and that completes my model. Any questions at this point? Please feel free to speak up. Okay, so far so good. Then we train the model on this YouTube VOS. It has about 4,000 videos, on average 5 seconds long. It has 94 categories, but we don't use any of these labels. It's curated by other people. We just use this data set that's manageable by our small academic compute. So we learn such a model, and we want to see what is the output. When we specify 5 channels of segmentation, we are wondering what does each channel specialize in. So given an image, we the rows, the next 5 rows each correspond to one of the segmentation channels. So those 5 channels were born equal. I never specify which channel should work for what. There's no such specification. But if you look at this image's output, the first channel seemed to indicate the animal in the center. The rest kind of divide the background into different parts. And then there's another image. Now it seems like first channel is also indicating the person, so on and so forth. You have the horse and horse rider, and then you have this the vehicle, the dog, and then the person. Now this is we said what happened. It appears that the objectness emerges in a particular channel, and that's not what we designed our model for. Somehow, the objectness just emerged in a particular channel. I would have expected that each channel specialized in different kind of appearances, but that's not what happened. Actually, this is a surprising discovery in our work, and it took us 3 months to figure out why that's the case. So we try to analyze this image. You have this, 5 channels of segmentation. How is channel 0 different from others? We look at the segmentation uncertainty. You can see the segmentation mask is relatively sharp in this channel compared to other fuzzy channels. And you can look at the reconstruction error. For that channel, the reconstruction error seemed to be large. Okay, this is reconstructing the next predicted frame. And then I'm also looking at the spatial bias, because these videos are not like someone moving around and with a camcorder. It's not like that. It's a photographer trying to track something. So we wonder whether there's a spatial bias, photographer's bias. Indeed, it tends to be at the mask center. It has certain spread. But you look at individual videos, they have a fixed cam looking at the chicken coop, and the animals could scatter around along the boundary. So statistically, there appears to be a center bias. Now, the outcome of this is that I can find out which channel has objectness by looking at either A or B, the segmentation uncertainty or reconstruction error. And the reason is that in the model, in order to have a small reconstruction error, 2 things have to happen at exactly the same time. You need to get a decent segmentation, the right segmentation. And secondly, you need to predict the flow correct for each segment. And so it's not, if the segmentation is clear by appearance, that's not enough. It has to support a good optic flow estimation. And because of that, it captures what moves into the segmentation mask. So people always think that motion is very important cue for babies to grasp what an object is. What is this objectness? Even without knowing what it is, the semantics. But no one actually has made a model to demonstrate that. And I think our model is the first one to give a concrete evidence that objectness can emerge from motion cues, even though the model has no sense how to compute optical flow. We don't use pre-trained flow routine like a raft. Because our model does not require any labels, we can continue to train on the individual videos. right? We pre-train a model on YouTube VUS, then on each of these three different data sets, you can see they all have very different characteristics, especially the last one. There's a lot of camera shakes involved. So this is zero shot video object segmentation results. We put a hotspot on every frame. It can handle the jittering of the camera. Uh, you know, yeah, it doesn't have the instant segmentation, but usually we cannot break it down into individual objects yet. There will be like a penguins, a group of penguins, they will come out in one. But this is the first step in understanding what is figure, what is ground, without any supervision. Because our segmentation only takes one image, we can apply our segmentation model on a static image, single images. So here are some examples. This is on the DUTS, a saliency benchmark. And there's so much work out there based on like low-level cues, deep learning features, some bias, some eye tracking data. But our thing is completely trained on unlabeled videos. And you might think the first two columns of results is that's not surprising. These tend to be people and moving objects. But the last column, these are like a statue, a plate, facade, so on and so forth, even big rock. Okay, so this is single shot, single image object segmentation. We actually have a huge gain over others. So this work, when it came out, it's almost four years ago, a long time ago. And to me, it was very shocking because I worked on computer vision for so many years. And I always thought, vision has to start from somewhere, low level, gradually build up. But this is figure ground segmentation learned without edges, any conception of edges, optical flows, or saliency. The only thing assumes is that is instantaneous visual constancy. The world has not changed significantly from one frame to the next. I only assume the world is not random. It's understandable. It has only, say, 5 pieces. Small. This is a bottleneck. We impose couple bottlenecks. One, the world is only made a few pieces. Secondly, I assume each piece is moving at constant speed. Of course, it violates assumptions left and right. Even my hand moves around, all the fingers. The one closer to me moves faster, the one further away from me moves slower. But with that, I can already grasp what is figure, what is background. So I thought that's amazing. So that's the first work. I will pause and see if there are any questions.
This is really interesting. Thank you for presenting it. One question I did have is how sensitive is this to the number of to the number of objects segmentation mask channels?
Right. You want it to be small. You don't want it to be too large, like 20. Then the things will be fragmented, right? So you have to figure out, oh, how, maybe there is definitely a concentration. The reason is this, you are capturing what moves and what appears to be different from your background. But if you have so many possible channel to put them into, then it's difficult to grasp where, there's concentration, but you have to figure out what is where. So we find that 5 is a good number if you would just want to do figure ground.
That makes sense. I also noticed in the example with the animal and the orange, I think it was, or it might have been a basketball. I noticed that they both ended up in the same mask, and so is it consistent? Is it consistently the case that like all of the foreground objects end up in the same mask component? Um, and
Yeah.
I'm
So
sort of
that's a surprising component, right? I thought they were scattered around in different channel, depend on the look. But
right.
it turns out there is one object in its channel. Even if you do a random initialization, the channel may move around. This time is the first channel, next time maybe third channel. But whatever it is, I can identify that channel without using any human labeling.
What if you just use two channels?
Two channels, we haven't gone down that few. Yeah. The thing is when you need to look for segmentation, there has to be some home things share in common. They tend to be grouped in one. And I
Mhm,
think two, maybe too small bottleneck,
mhm.
especially when
Okay.
when the scene becomes more complicated.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Um, now I want to move on to the second work. I want to learn from, so the previous work, even though it's a video, during learning, we only actually take 2 frames. We try many different things, like every fifth frame. In the end, it doesn't matter. I can just take adjacent frames. Okay, it's all statistical learning. So I thought, humans don't actually track objects like this. This we call smooth pursuit eye movements. Humans make saccadic eye movements, right? Your eyes never, you know, it's not like camera smoothly moving. So I thought the video is not that critical. The reason we only work on 4,000 videos is, if you process video, we only have essentially 4,000 visual scenes. It's very limited. We don't see enough, right? So if I can just deal with images, can I learn something more from this diverse data? Can I learn some feature that's better? So this time I just want to learn from discrete collection images because I want to see the diverse world. And I want to be able to figure out, say, the human is made of these parts. I want to do parsing without supervision. Okay. For recognition, it can, if you have labels, I can use them. If you don't have them, I also have results for you. Okay. So when we work on semantics for segmentation, we have to think about, can semantics be learned from nothing but data for this image? Semantics intrinsically has multiple levels of granularity. This image is actually a true instance in MS COCO. I can propose maybe the Oracle knows that maybe there's such a hierarchical organization. The root level is the scene. What is a scene? Indoor, outdoor. And then breaking into figure ground. Figure could be the person of interest. The person could be broken down to head, torso, legs. The ground could be curb, could be rocks, could be trees, okay? All of this. If there's such a passing tree, ground truth, not accessible to us, we are essentially picking some nodes of interest. We even different branches, we are focusing on different levels. We pick nodes randomly. And the same image also appeared in dense pose. Here, you are only picking the body parts. All the street, curb, rocks, you don't care the differentiation. It's all background. Okay? So now the question becomes, when people work on segmentation, usually it's approached as supervised learning. In supervised learning, the vocabulary is given to you. The examples of each semantic concept is given to you. You never need to think about which level, which granularity you should aim for. If we are working on unsupervised segmentation, even if we are successful, how do we demonstrate to the rest of the world we have learned something useful? Which granularity should we target for? Obviously, different granularity, different vocabulary needs to have a different representation, different model. So what should we aim for? So that question is kind of thrown in our face. So we have to deal with this. So this image, I'm asking, what do you see in this image? And what does scene mean to you? Can we define it within the scene modality? Do we not see if we have no words for what we see? Now, this image I tweaked a little bit. So some people really don't see anything. So how about I just say, you see a bunch of ink, black ink, okay? Some people see a girl. How many people see a girl? Okay, I love this talking about this in person because I ask people just to clap their hands. You can see a lot of people see girl. So on the right I rotate the image a bit so you can see the girl more clearly. It's a girl facing left. Okay. Do you see a woman? Some people can see a woman. This is a famous girl and woman illusion. Okay. Same image can be seen differently. If you need a recognition, you need to build three models for this. And if you want to build a segmentation model, each concept will correspond to a different kind of segmentation. And the segmentation, it could be at the coarse level, it could be fine level. Okay? And for that, by traditional methods, you need 9 models to capture all of this. My view is that segmentation and recognition should not be studied in isolation. Recognition is a continuum of segmentation. Segmentation is detailed parsing of an image. Recognition is a consequence of that. And they happen at the same time. It's concurrent. You cannot have recognition without internal parsing. You cannot have internal parsing without recognition. The other most important thing, there's internal consistency. You cannot see girls parsing and recognize as women. You cannot see a girl's fine grain segmentation, yet you see a woman's coarse grain segmentation. There got to be internal consistency that people do not explore. So my answer to the question I posed earlier is that seeing is about grouping. When you see ink, you see these three ink blobs and they can group into one. I don't need the word ink. You give it ink or not, it's not that important. Likewise for girls, I see the hair, I see the face, I see them together as part of the head. That's the concept of girl. Likewise for women. I don't need a word. If you have a word, great. Go for communication, but that doesn't change what I see. And seeing is grouping. That's my answer. And with that perspective, if you compare our work to previous approaches, in the VIT, you have patches. If you want to train classify, you use image labels. If you want to semantic segmentation, you use pixel level class labels. If you do boundary segmentation, you do what Sam does. You provide the boundaries and you learn from them. And there's ambiguity. In our case, the patches, the square patches, are inspired by language, text research. Vision is far richer than text. I'm going to go with vision-inspired units, that's superpixel, that follow the contours better. And I'm going to have segmentation should never be an end task in itself. I treat segmentation as internal to the parsing, and I'm building a hierarchical segmentation, and itself doesn't have any objective. The sole existence of segmentation to support the eventual recognition. If I have supervision, like a corgi for this image, I want to learn. I want to learn that's driven by the recognition objective. Okay, that's a high level. How our work is different. We don't have isolated components, isolated tasks. We have one cohesive segmentation, then recognition pipeline. So for those of you who are familiar with the VIT, we only make two changes to VIT. First, we replace patches with superpixels through superpixel partitioning. And that's done through off-the-shelf. There are many choices we investigated. Once it's fixed, it's done. Okay, we don't change. With the superpixels, we can use them to pull feature from the CNN feature output. And that replaces the token in input token to VIT. The second thing is graph pooling. In VIT, the number of tokens does not change over layers. For us, we are learning this probabilistic transition matrix, this grayscale matrix, as you see on the slide. We have fewer and fewer tokens, and each correspond to a segment which gets bigger and bigger. And then we have recognition objective imposed at the very end on the class token. It could be unsupervised. If we don't have labels, we just do instance level discrimination. Every instance is different. Try to be different as from other images as possible. Or if you have class labels, we want to do supervised classification. So we learn this and we benchmark on part ImageNet. It's other people's work. They curated this into animals and things. Then there are these objects concept, and then each it has these part labels. To give you a sense, it's a very challenging task. You can see the parts are demarcated where there's no boundary, no clear boundary. Okay, it's anatomical body parts. It's a very challenging task. Now, the highlight of our work is that we beat Sam on part ImageNet. Okay, on object discovery. These are the ones that are basic concepts. To remind you, SAM is trained on 1 billion masks on 11 million high-resolution images. Our model is trained on unlabeled 1.3 million ImageNet images. We are 8% better. For us, it's unsupervised object discovery. For SAM, it's a zero-shot discovery. I want to show you one concrete example for this image. This is SAM-H model. It's the largest model you can find. Segmentation is perfect, beautiful. But SAM only gives you segmentation, doesn't give you semantics. So we call an open off the ours also give you segmentation. We don't have semantics. So we have we name the segment. Given the vocabulary, we name the segment. Both of our methods are using same name the segment. Even given the perfect segmentation, given this the fish, quadruped, biped, reptile, all this, when you name this, it will name this as fish instead of the whole thing is a fish, even the other things that's non-fish. And then you have fish, at the part level, you have fish head, bodied fin. And then you have the VIT baseline, unsupervised learning. This is a proper baseline for us. Basically, it's clueless. And look at our beautiful results. Unsupervised learning. We can segment the whole body. We can even break it down reasonably well into a head, body, fin. Okay? So I thought this is amazing result. Why is that? Segment. People always think you need to segment first. For the fish, sure, you isolate this, you get rid of the distractors. The recognition is great. But for the next one, the person is actually occluded by a cutout of fish. You have the cutout of fish. And when you present the two pieces with the cutout of fish, you present this to a recognizer. It will actually consider this as fish instead of biped for humans. And people in human, actually, this is on perception, on audio study, with a person who discovered this phenomenon. Like, what do you see in this image? You can't recognize anything, no? But if I give you some occluding this, what do you see? There's a bunch of bees scrambled, right, by the ink. The black ink, so if you see back and forth, black ink doesn't add anything to bees per se, but the mere presence of this black ink with this occlusion relationship facilitates your recognition of bees. So this caused the segment then recognize this pipeline, this way of thinking into question. I don't think we isolate this and recognize. Sometimes it can, you can put attention, spatial attention, feature attention, help you facilitate. But I think that I segment and then present the segmented portion for recognition is actually the wrong idea. And we train a dog, non-dog binary classifier on images using our pipeline in supervised learning. I want to use this task to illustrate our test time optimization. This image is very complicated. You have an adult, boy, you have dog, you have car. And the model is trained for dog versus non-dog. So initially, the feed forward, so the vision at a glance, right? The first glance at this image, pre-trained on other images will say, oh, there might be a dog, but I'm only 54% chance sure there's a dog. Now it's like, oh, I have a hypothesis. Dog is a potential object, but I'm not completely sure. I'm going to maximize the output. I'm going to backprop to solidify my recognition on this particular image. I modify the weights. Once the weights are modified with backprop, I'm going to feed forward, go through the image, go through the model again. This time is a vision with the scrutiny because I have a hypothesis in mind. Now you can see that the dog fires at a 97% chance. But what's so amazing is that if you look at the segmentation, earlier it only picks out the top part of the back of the dog. Now the whole dog emerges. This is trying to illustrate segmentation and recognition have to go hand in hand. You cannot have ungrounded recognition, okay? And this is done without any segmentation labels. So this is our, okay, any questions?
Stella, we have a question in chat.
Oh, okay.
we're struggling a little bit with the webinar format since we're not really used to it, and I think all of us were muted. Mark was exerting total control. I think he's relaxed that and allowed us to speak now. At least I can speak. I have no ability to turn my video on. So I guess Mark doesn't want to see
speak up.
anybody.
Yeah. Please just shout out your question. Yeah.
Yeah. So we missed it. I had a few early on, but I need to catch up on your references. I'm familiar with a lot of your work, obviously. We've been working together for years.
Yeah.
But I don't recall the optical flow stuff from
Oh, that's
2021. So
2021. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. It has been a while.
I think you and I
Yeah.
have been working together since 2018 or 2019 there,
Yeah.
if I recall. But
Yeah.
Rob Taylor, one of our staff scientists, has just a question about the superpixel partitioning step.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
And
Yeah,
I can
please
how
ask it
speak
if
that's
you
up.
done.
guys can hear me.
Yeah, please speak up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It looks like I was just trying to get a little bit of a handle. The superpixel partitioning is obviously like a key step in your approach, and I just did a quick grep on your work. It looks like you had a 2003 paper called something like segmentation by weighted aggregation. I was just curious, is that the same? Is what you're doing in that one step related to that 2003 paper, or has there been something more recent that you're using to, or if you could just kind of comment on how that piece is done, and like also
Oh,
what
okay.
the computational complexities of that step alone, because I would assume that's a pretty
Yeah.
intensive step.
Uh, so that is actually done by, I don't know if you've ever heard like slick. It's based on just a low level RGB. So there are some work based on like slick is really just color clustering, very simple routine. The one we eventually adopted seeds gives slightly better results. But even if I just use patches, we have ablation study. If you don't do superpixel, if you just go with the regular patches, we maybe lose maybe 3% performance. Okay. But the I always like superpixels because I don't like text-inspired vision algorithms. The superpixel essentially, can you deal with pixels? Yes, you can, but it's just too compute intensive because we are talking about VIT. If each pixel is a token, then you have it. If you are 100 by 100, that's like 10,000 pixels, and the attention is like 10,000 by 10,000. It's gonna kill you. So we turn this into superpixels. Each superpixels is a potential. They are potentially one like part of the region, right? So usually superpixels capture like homogeneity in appearance. But some other superpixel, we like the superpixel to follow contours. You don't want to have a superpixel, half of this on the black, half of them on the white. You are straddling between across boundaries. You don't want that. So it's out of a computational concern. Our recent work, we try to do end-to-end learning. Can I get rid of this? The problem with our thing right now is that once we fix the superpixel, we don't change them. And sometimes it's bad. For example, in cityscape, you have those lampposts, which is skinny. In some of the segment, you can see a strong contrast. You can get the superpixels right. In the middle section, the contrast is so low that the superpixel will get them wrong to begin with, and it will become part of the background, and that doesn't help you to figure out the straight pose. So we try to do end-to-end learning. Once I have some idea of the pose, the top and bottom segment, can I figure out this? It should be extended all the way through. So I'm giving you to summarize, superpixels is just simple low-level computation. It's very easy, simple. In this version, it's just done by pre-processing. Secondly, it has a caveat in terms of making mistakes early, and there's a way to handle this. We are working on making it end-to-end learnable. And the main motivation is to reduce compute in the VIT framework, but there are other reasons for that because you don't need actually pixel level computation, especially when your feature is extracted from CNN.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. So the third work I want to talk about is continue on the previous work. I want to talk about hierarchical image classification. Most of image classification problems, it's single level. Given image, you have flat organization, right? Because even before deep learning, people tried so many hierarchical, flat. Hierarchical only wins in maybe slight efficiency, but accuracy always, it suffers. But I think hierarchical image classification has a deeper, reason for it, right? Here I give you one practical reason, right? There's a taxonomy, right? It can be, this is a hummingbird with a flower, okay? For this image, the taxonomy is given. And you want to, given image, you want to output this branch of the tree. But for this image, practical reason, some data just don't, some images, they just don't have it, don't have enough information for you to support the route to the leaf node recognition. But you can still see something at a certain level. You can recognize as a bird. You may not be able to go deeper than that, okay? So if you are only focused on flat level organization, which is predefined, you're going to lose out on these images. You give up on these images already. It really depends on application. If every image is like close up, like photographer's shot, you can certainly go for leaf node level recognition. But if you have data from the wild, you will have data of very different qualities. And are you giving up on those? I think the deeper reason is a hierarchical image classification allows you to generalize better. But I give you a practical reason people can relate to better maybe. Okay, so for this problem, the prior work tend to enforce semantic consistency at each level, across levels. So given this image, you have shared backbone, and then you treat each level, the coarse level classification or fine level classification, you have loss, for each level. And sometimes people adding this semantic consistency. Okay. The problem with multitask learning is that it's a statistical learning. It guarantees statistically each level is doing their best at improving the accuracy. But it doesn't guarantee in the same instance you have consistent predictions. For this image, actually contains both a bird and a plant. When people annotate, they only have one thing in mind. It could be the bird, could be the flower. But when you train a coarse and fine-grained classifiers, they will make inconsistent predictions. You get the bird right, green hermit, but you may be at a coarse grain, you may classify this as plant because the classifier trained for each level is focusing on the best feature that makes all the data in the training set as happy as possible. They will pick on very different things. And the flower seems to be very prominent in this image as well. So if I look into the attention map, indeed, the coarse-grained classifier will pick on the flower, and the fine-grained will pick on the bird, okay? When you have a different semantics, all these words, those at this level, they are really dealing with very different tasks. To distinguish between birds and plants, you probably need to just capture furriness versus this foliage, the distinction. While green hermit, arrowhead plant, all different fine-grained, it really needs to focus on small details. Very different tasks. Our idea is that if you want to make consistent prediction at multiple semantic levels, at least you should refer to the same content in the image. I want to enforce internal visual consistency. To me, vision is about grouping. So it is about segmentation consistency. So here you can see initially they have, these superpixels. What we are learning is that we just extend the previous work. We are going to have the coarse to fine, which is consistent. It's guaranteed to be consistent. We hypothesize that coarse-grained will look at the bigger pieces. Fine-grained will look at the finer pieces. We impose the classification loss at each level on the class token of every block. Okay? But you see, we don't enforce semantic consistency. our consistency is guaranteed through visual consistency. If you are focusing on part of the bird, and your coarse-grained classification is going to look at the whole bird, okay? That's the intuition. And this is a contrast between the prior approach and our approach. We are looking at a hierarchical semantic classification that's grounded in consistent segmentation. Okay, earlier work, because they don't enforce consistency, their results tend to predict different conflicting semantic classes. And if I have to draw the research landscape of image classification, most work are focusing on single level prediction. And then there's a hierarchical prediction. You predict full taxonomy. All the work out there is enforcing, you have the additional semantic constraints. You just enforce external semantic consistency. And our work, last year's cast is the one work I just introduced, versus this work, follow-up work, deals with the internal visual consistency for classification. And you can see that we learn consistent regions from fine to coarse. We deliver consistent representations. These examples, they are classified correctly by baseline hierarchical VIT. We just impose hierarchical loss at each block like ours, but they don't have the coarse to fine segments like ours. It's a proper baseline. But we use the class token at each block to retrieve nearest neighbors. So you can see that at the finest level, hierarchical VIT, they nearest neighbor according to the class token features is actually this person wearing black uniform. Same thing with the person with the second row, person with the black hair. So this kind of calls into question, even when the baseline makes the right prediction, actually it's probably picking the wrong feature. It's like this black dog or some dog wearing a vest, It's not for the right reason. While ours, you can see we have a consistent feature retrievals. So the next thing is we outperform SOTA. This is just to show we deliver much better results. And even our small model outperforms the zero-shot clip performance. And you can see these 4 categories are both correct, and coarse correct, fine grain wrong. And most interesting, if you look at the third column, we never made the mistake. The fine grain is right. We rarely make a mistake. Fine grain is right, and the coarse grain is wrong. Okay. Okay. And then because we put multiple levels semantic supervision on the classification, we can, compared to our last year's version with single level classification, we also improve weekly supervised segmentation. So that's my third work. I want to pause and see if there are any questions. Speak up, please just speak up. Okay.
Stella, this one, sorry, what was the year on this one? Was this a new work at Michigan? Or?
Yes, this is just in last month. I went to Singapore to present iClear.
Oh,
so
cool.
this is where did I paint the research landscape? So the second work is our cast with we be the SAM and with unsupervised learning. There are also a lot of work results. We have a lot of results with supervision, but I think the unsupervised beating SAM is the most exciting one. The research landscape, I'm painting the research landscape. See last year's iClear, we presented a cast. CAST stands for concurrent segmentation recognition with adaptive segment tokens. And this is like just imposing hierarchical loss. And with another thing with the tree additional vertical loss to encourage consistency, that essentially 2 technical innovations. We are the only one looking at internal visual consistency. All the work out there is just, you have more supervision is plausible.
Yeah, this is really cool. I think you may remember that I've been really interested in hierarchical classification for quite a while.
Yeah,
And now at Clarifai, we have a hierarchical detection and tracking problem in video
yeah,
that has to
yeah,
run at real time on edge devices.
yeah.
So we need to keep our models lightweight. And without reading the paper, I'm just curious if this is something we could integrate into a detection head, the part that makes the classification decisions. Or would it be better to detect, crop, and then use something like this?
I think that it's doable to do detection. And the thing with our cast, because we have fewer and fewer tokens, like the work we did on, we have a lot of results on dense pose, like even unsupervised discover the person's body parts. Because we have fewer and fewer tokens, like from 64 to 32 to 16 to 8, unlike, people start with what, not 194 or something throughout, our G flops is much less. We
Yeah.
claim our efficiency. Yeah. So I think it's very
Okay.
suitable for lightweight applications. And you can totally integrate into sort of a deter kind of framework.
Yes. Okay. I'm sure Rob and Mark are probably both looking at the GitHub page right now for HCast. Okay, I know we're running late, so I won't stop us with any more
Okay.
questions, but very, very
Okay.
cool.
So this is our coming up the next month at CVPR on ad hoc categorization. All the work people have done, basic level categories, like cats and dogs. These are, in Eleanor Roche, a cognitive scientist language. These are basic categories, and she thinks there's like finer level subordinate, and then there's super ordinate categories. There's another concept in cognitive science called ad hoc categories. A well-known example is what items can be sold at a garage sale. It's a
I,
task made up to suit someone's needs. It's categorization on demand. It's
still,
not something. Questions?
I think Chris Funk has his hand up. If you have a second.
Oh, just speak up. I'm not monitoring the chat, and I have trouble clicking into the chat. Just speak up, please.
Chris, we can't hear you.
Your volume is really low, very faint.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you actually using the superpixels as input within the network instead of the patches, or was this a separate side task that you were doing
So
for the last
we
problem?
have so actually conceptually it's very simple. The superpixel are just certain masks, and the image goes through a CNN feature extractor, and then we are just using the superpixel mask to calculate the average feature in each superpixel, and that replaces the patch token you put into VIT. That's it. So it doesn't matter. It's
So you are,
irregular
oh,
shape. Yeah, you just
yeah. Well,
pull over
but
this irregular shape.
okay. So you're pooling to an average like token from each superpixel and then
CNN
predicting it.
feature. Correct. So there's a VIT using CNN features. Yeah, people just do this patch thing, and our thing is just irregularly shaped, and it varies across different parts of the image. So it's a very simple modification.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just kind of curious if that was, but yeah, it was really interesting work.
Okay. Okay, so this ad hoc categorization is this task that you make up a task, okay? For example, the thing with this concept is that it's not like you can give exclusive taxonomy. People can ask, can this be sold at a garage sale? You can easily answer that question. Give me a comprehensive list of this. It's probably hard. Now, let's say okay, you give some examples. What can be sold at a garage sale? Rain boots, stuffy, shoes, okay? Now, given this, I want an intelligent model to figure this out for me. Unknown knowns. I give you another pair of shoes, boots, and you need to say, I have seen some examples, training examples. These can be sold. I'm going to say, okay, these can be sold at garage sales. This is unknown knowns. Then there's unknown unknowns, right? Maybe if, shoes and hats. If shoes can be sold, maybe hats can be sold. And maybe the racket can be sold. Of course, there's a deeper reason. I'm not getting into this latent, but a good system should be able to infer other concepts you have never given examples for. They can also be sold at garage sale. And our work, essentially, so we call this ad hoc task is like this on-demand categorization. Open means I need to discover novel categories that you never have training instances for. You don't even know that concept exists, like hats. So this first one is closed world generalization. If you have given me a label instance, these shoes can be sold. If I see another pair of shoes, I should be able to extend it, okay? That's a usual supervised learning problem. Then I need to discover novel semantic categories. You never show me hats can be sold, but because I have the semantic network, maybe I can infer that hats can be sold. And then, given this clutter of items, there's things form a visual cluster, all these suitcases. And, I should discover this could be potentially sold, okay? So essentially, CLIP, the first closed world learning, CLIP can do a very good job already. And the novel semantic categories, I'm going to rely on CLIP text to discover the novel semantics. And the novel visual cluster, I want to identify in my unlabeled image data set, there is a good cluster. I want to discover this general category based on visual, not based on the semantics. A successful open ad hoc categorization model should handle all three aspects. So there is a benchmark, Stanford, then benchmark on action, mood, location. They annotate the same data differently based on action, location, or mood. If it's action, it gives some labeled images, pushing a car, drinking. And your job is to figure out some other instances, identify other pushing a car or drinking. And also need to discover reading, feeding a horse, cooking can also be in that category, okay? Categorize accordingly. So these are from known classes, and this is unlabeled from novel classes. Novel, some is through semantic extension, some is through visual extension. And if I have location, the same set of images will be labeled differently. And the label could vary. It's not like every image will have all these ad hoc categories labeled. They have different set of images labeled, and you need to infer the blue ones, unknown knowns, and then the orange ones are unknown unknowns, okay? So that's a task. This is our model. Our idea, just like in cognitive science, the idea of ad hoc categorization is it needs to build on top of the general categorization capabilities you already have. So we are going to base this on CLIP. We don't touch CLIP in terms of the text encoder and the image encoder. Nothing changes, okay? At the output end, we have, you have this two types of supervision. You have sparsely labeled images. So I'm going to use supervised contrastive learning. Same concept, they should have similar representation. The text and the image should be closer, just in the CLIP contrastive learning manner. Unsupervised, unlabeled data, I'm going to use this unsupervised contrastive learning. Images with the augmentation, they should be similar, okay? That's that. The thing we use is contextualized features. CLIP only gives you, the image encoder only gives you one kind of feature. Obviously, when you have a different context, if you look at the image, you want to identify action versus you want to identify location, indoor, outdoor, and park, those features should be very different. So I'm going to introduce this context token, okay? Different token, a different context will, we learn a set of context tokens In our setting, we choose 5. There's a hyperparameter you can control. We only learn the 5 global token to be input into the VIT, okay? The thing with the VIT is that all the later model, I don't touch. But because attention is a key mechanism, when you introduce a new thing, right, this will influence the output at every level. For example, the class token. Now, instead of the previous patch token inputs and the class token inputs, it also receives 5 context tokens that are learned, okay? And because of that, the class response will be different. Likewise, for every internal representation for the patch tokens as well as for the context tokens, but these are derived. The only thing we learn is 5 input tokens, global tokens. It's a data set specific and it's the task specific. Okay, for each image, it's when I switch from action context token to location context token, the feature will be very different, even though it's going through the clip backbone. Now, on this data set with these 3 action, location, mood, we are looking at, as I switch the task context, can you make correct predictions on all 3 tasks? We call this omni accuracy, okay? And you can see that if I only use semantics, like if I use clip, you can see the, omni, there's so many numbers, just focus on the last one. You have certain accuracy, 40%-ish. If you only use visual, you don't have the words, just, general GCD is a prior work. Only look at the visual features. You get, 50% accuracy. Ours is looking at both semantic and visual. We have 70% accuracy. What I find most interesting is looking at these features. This is a clip feature embedding, okay? Each image associated with a feature. We do the Tisney embedding. And we color each point with the class labels. And all the open stars indicating a labeled instance, okay? And this is our feature with our context token for action. So just with, with that one global set of context token learned, I'm going to change the clip feature from the left to the right. What's so interesting is that you see a lot of the open stars. These are, you have training instance, label instance for. But look at the rightmost, there's a green cluster. That there are no open stars, meaning you never see a training instance. We discover this cluster, and it's such a tight cluster. You can see the fixing bike, is also an instance, a cluster with no examples. I can discover this. These are the unknowns, novel clusters, right? Feeding a horse, you have never seen example. Riding a horse, you never seen example. You discover this, you give the proper verb also. So I thought this is a very interesting results. Okay, and then, if you look at the saliency maps, right? Clip only one kind, right? Just no text string. You look at the saliency map. But by action, you see, if it's action context, if you are always examine each visual scene from action perspective, for the first image, you're focusing on the hand. For the second image, you're fixing bike, you're also focusing on the hand. While the baseline on the visual, we're focusing on the bike instead. For location, the same image, you're going to look at the background, right? City street versus residential. And for mood, you're going to focus on the person's face, okay? So we can, the rest is like, we can discover cluster, but can you name them? So this is one way of doing that. We consult ChatGPT, you have this vocabulary, what are other vocabulary? Then you are doing, given the visual feature, you figure out the mean cluster, you do a constraint text inversion, you find the proper word. This is showing you some example. We can also name the clusters. Reading becomes, ground truth reading becomes reading a book, which isn't too bad. Cooking becomes preparing a meal, all reasonable. So I will end that, I started by criticizing the mainstream of thinking is multifaceted inverse learning. It's isolated, it's piecemeal analysis. My proposal is that the segmentation has a different role. It's a fundamental to generalization intelligence. And since I joined UMich 2 years ago, I think even that recognition segmentation, they have they are well defined, but only from what researchers want at the end for downstream. In order to develop a true visual intelligence, it needs to be studied with action. So hopefully next time I can talk about unscripted, action-grounded visual learning. And this is my muse. Octopus is my muse. They're soft, movable, intelligent, adaptive, playful, resilient. And I'm not into soft per se, soft robotics per se. But the fact that they're soft, they're morphable, meaning that all this, projective geometry, all those will be thrown out of window. You cannot rely on rigid assumptions on geometry. And I think the statistical learning, how can you adapt on the fly, will be very important. Okay, I'll end here and I'll take any question you might have. Please speak up. I'm not checking the chat. I see there like 9 messages. Yeah.
We can end here. Thank you again very much, Stella, and hopefully we'll have you back at some point to talk about some of the work that's still waiting on submission review.